Hi, it's your girl Sasha, and I actually just wanted to do a review of a recent movie I just saw on Netflix called Bird Box. It's very intriguing, very interesting, and I also noticed that it had some similarities to another movie I had recently saw called Quiet Place. Now, a lot of people are saying that Quiet Place and Bird Box is kind of similar, but I just did like a huge comparison to show the differences, but it does have some similarities. One of the similarities is they're both during the apocalypse. So it's like the apocalypse, and you have all these crisis situations. Of course, cars are crashing, people are dying, and all these different various things going on. Now, a big difference about this is like people were saying, like, Bird Box is like A Quiet Place too. But realistically, Bird Box is actually from a novel by Josh Malerman, I think his name is pronounced, and it was actually released in 2014. Now, I'm not sure when the manuscript was written for The Quiet Place, but Quiet Place wasn't released until April of 2018. So I'm not sure where they got their storyline from, but there's a similarity with that. Now, another similarity is that with The Quiet Place, they had hearing-seeking alien monsters that would kind of attack people from sound. And with Bird Box, they kind of had it with the vision. So it was some type of vision sensory, like people will see something that will cause them to self-mutilate themselves or kill themselves or just hurt themselves to the point where they died. So that was kind of interesting why they both had something to do with senses, like either the sight or with sound, which is very interesting. Now, I also thought about there was a movie that was called The Happening that was released in 2008, and it's kind of similar to Bird Box because they never ever showed who the monster was, or they never showed what the monster actually was or how it came about. They just kind of like solve like an issue on how to I guess alleviate it or kind of control it by not traveling in large groups. But it was something that also was traveling through the air. You see the wind blow and all that other kind of stuff, and then people will start acting different and crazy and also self-mutilate themselves. So if anything, it had a lot to do with The Happening. But let's go back to the similarities with Quiet Place and Bird Box. So in Quiet Place, there was a mother and a father and some children. The movie started off with two boys and one girl, and during the movie, the wife got pregnant, which is beyond me why anyone, you will want to have a baby during the apocalypse, but I guess things happen. You're bored, you got nothing to do, so you have sex and get pregnant. In Bird Box, Sandra Bullock character, she was pregnant and met another pregnant woman, and they just stayed in the same house together, but they were both pregnant when all this thing went down with the apocalypse. So that was very interesting. In The Quiet Place, you couldn't make any noise of any kind. If the noise was heard, the kind of how the monster kind of found you was by noise. In The Quiet Place, it started off with people around the world. Actually started off with Russia by coincidence, where people were seeing things in Russia, and it was hurt. They would hurt themselves. They would start killing themselves, and it was on the news and everything. And I think it's probably like, I know that she went to the doctor, but it wasn't very long until it started affecting people in America. Now, another similarity was that both of the parents to me were kind of sort of mean. In The Quiet Place, just like the parents were kind of like really nonchalant, like, you're in the apocalypse, you're in the store, you let the kids wander off by themselves, you're not constantly watching them, either where they can knock something down or they can hurt themselves or have the monster draw attention to all of you and get you all killed. And it was even a part in the movie where the mother and dad are walking in front of the children, and you have like one of the girls that was deaf, and she's left responsible for her toddler brother. It's like, really? Come on. Like, one parent should have been in the front, one parent should have been in the back. But regardless of that, you could tell I don't like that part of the movie or how they just depicted that. Because, I mean, as a parent, you should hold on to your kid's hand, for God's sakes. But anyway, let's get back to Bird Box. Sandra Bullock character, she was in the beginning of the movie, they kind of show her talking to two children, letting them know that you guys are going to have to, do X, Y, and Z so we can get to where we got to go. And it's like, okay, it's time for you to grow up. And I get it. After the movie was explained, it was kind of cool how they did it, because they started off in the present, then went to the past, and then went back to the present, and kind of went back and forth. But I was totally with the story the whole entire time and understood everything. Some of the things, another thing they had, like with A Quiet Place, the father took the son on a walkabout in the mother's like last trimester. So it's like if you're pregnant, the last trimester, sometimes you can go at any time. And why would you take your kid on a walkabout when your wife is gonna pop at any time? Didn't make sense to me. And then the walkabout he took on was near a waterfall, and the waterfall was like near some rocks, and apparently he could yell, he could scream, he could do all kind of noises because of the waterfall. But then it's like, okay, you can yell and scream, which is what the wife's going to do in a couple days or when she has a child. So why wouldn't you have the baby near the waterfall? Like, why not be near the water? You see a lot of childbirth where the woman has the baby in the water, was a lot easier, and also it's just drown out the sound. I didn't understand, like, why would you put yourself through the torture being in the house and, I don't know, or build your house near the waterfall? Didn't understand that. One of the things with Bird Box, I've seen a lot on TV and on a lot of reviews, is people were wondering, well, what was the monster they saw? What was the monster they saw? And they talked about the one character where he was talking about different demons and different things that he's seen or heard about, different legends and myths about monsters around the world, and how they were coming and how they do certain things to harm people and so forth, which is very interesting. But one of the things that analogies that I got with the movie is that my analysis is that the monster they were seeing, it's depression, because it showed it, I guess it started in Russia and it was like spreading, which is kind of like, let's say for instance, with, negative energy. You have negative energy at work, one person would get in and everyone would start, just being negative or talking about bad things or whatever. So I feel like what they were seeing, and it's described like, just being like depression. One of the things they had in the movie, they kind of hit on several times, is talk about people that were, kind of, what they call, had mental disorders, or was in a psychiatric hospital, and they weren't affected by what other people were seeing. And just me with my thought process, I think, with certain people that have mental disorders, they already have clinical depression, they had schizophrenia, they had bipolar already. So whatever it was doing to normal people would drive them to the point where they would kill themselves, versus with people that are already have mental disorders, that they will actually be open to it, or it's like kind of like people are finally coming into their world. So that's why I feel like what they were seeing, or what was coming into them, was like depression. And that's why, like, I guess if you've seen it, and in one case, this one lady was hearing something talking in her mind over and over again, and she didn't understand what it was, but that I really think was the depression. And I've looked up some terms as far as it's MMD, with major depression disorder, with being pessimistic and things like that. And it's, it's proven that people do like self-mutilation or self-harm and suicide, or they have pain without cause and things like that. So it's just kind of like, if they're already delusional, why would they, what was going on with everybody else wouldn't bother them. And I guess my last and final thing that I was looking at in my comparison is that both cases, the daughter in The Quiet Place had a hearing impairment, and in the Bird Box, they had, the people that were blind were actually like the savior of the movie, the people that were really good or well off and not bothered, because they didn't have to worry about seeing anything because guess what? They couldn't see. And in The Quiet Place, like the daughters, her hearing aid actually kind of disrupted the aliens and caused them harm by the high-pitched tone. So it was really, really, that part was cool, but it was just kind of interesting how they both played on, the blind, kind of being really good, and then with the hearing. So people that had, some disabilities actually became the heroes of the story. So I like Bird Box. I thought it was excellent. I did like the movie, the way they shift back and forth through time and going back and forth to the present. And it's definitely a movie to watch. And just tell me what you think about it. Thank you for listening.